Hello and welcome. My name is Stu Smoley, and I had the privilege to serve nearly 35 years as an artillery officer with the Canadian Armed Forces. On behalf of the thousands of veterans, current serving members of our Canadian Armed Forces, our defense team, and our production crew here at Assiniboine College, I would like to welcome you to our Remembrance Day presentation. As we commemorate this solemn day, we acknowledge that we are on Treaty 2 territory. Assiniboine College is privileged to provide learning opportunities on the lands of the Dakota Oyate, Nakota Oyate, Ininewak, Nehithowak, Anishinawak, Dene Sulene, Anishinabek, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. This program is intended to pay tribute to those who have served and sacrificed so that we can live in a country such as Canada. It is a privilege to call this place home. During this time of year, we pay special thanks to the people who have served in the Canadian Armed Forces. That includes people who are currently serving and veterans who have served in the past. Canada has a proud military history that stretches back to a time even before we were our own country. Generations of service members have defended Canada, helped Canadians in times of national crisis, and promoted the values of peace, freedom, and democracy. Whether part of the Royal Canadian Navy, the Canadian Army, or the Royal Canadian Air Force, and whether working here in Canada or deployed around the world, the work often involves sacrifice, traveling to new locations far away from home, working in dangerous places, risking injury, and even death. Service members do it because they want to help, and because it means something special to them. Today is an opportunity to share with you some stories about Canada's military history and the amazing members of the Canadian Armed Forces, those who have done so much to keep us safe in even the most difficult and dangerous moments. I want to tell you about the work that current members of the Canadian Armed Forces are doing at home and around the world to carry on this legacy. We want to make sure that our world is safer and more peaceful, not just for Canadians, but also for others facing difficult times, like wars, or national disasters like floods and fires, or other serious threats. Sharing these stories is just one of the ways that we can show our gratitude to members of the Canadian Armed Forces and veterans for their service and honor their sacrifices. I want you to close your eyes and imagine you're a soldier in the Second World War. The date is June 6th, 1944, commonly known as D-Day. You're a part of one of the most important battles of Canada's military history, known as the Battle of Normandy. On this cloudy June morning, you join thousands of other Canadian, British, and American service members as the Allied Army crosses by ship from England to the north of France. As you get close to shore, you hop over the edge of the landing craft and begin wading towards the beaches. It's a scary situation. The water is cold, salty, and rough. Bullets fly by your head, and loud explosions are deafening as you trudge through wet beaches, sand, every step a struggle. But you keep moving forward because you know this mission is making a difference. You and your fellow soldiers are helping turn the tide of war and working hard to give the Allies an important victory. This was the reality for many young Canadians during this time, many of them young enough to still be in high school. There were 5 beaches that the Allies needed to free from Nazi control, and these young Canadians were in charge of freeing Juno Beach. Taking control of these beaches would give the Allies a place to transport the troops, supplies, and equipment they needed to fight the Nazis in Western Europe. This task wasn't easy. Canadians, Americans, and British service members fought on land, from ships, and in the air against Nazi troops who were well trained and prepared for the battle. Despite the obstacles, after 11 weeks of brutal fighting, the Allies achieved their goal, but this victory came at a very high cost. It's estimated that 350 Canadians were killed on June 6th alone. More than 5,000 Canadians were killed during the 2.5 months of fighting in Normandy, and more than 13,000 Canadians were injured during this battle. These brave Canadians fought selflessly to achieve peace and to make the world a better place. Like the soldiers who fought in the Second World War, the generations of Canadian Armed Forces members who have served since then have been dedicated to making the world a better place. Their work has taken them to far-off places around the world, like Afghanistan. From 2001 to 2014, over 40,000 Canadian soldiers, sailors, and aviators did their very best to help build a brighter future for the people of Afghanistan, who had been living under a brutal dictatorship. They supported a new government and helped give the Afghan people better access to healthcare and education. Afghanistan is still going through its challenges as a country, and the Canadians who served there helped make a difference, bringing hope for Afghans so they could build a brighter future. This week is also time to give our thanks to current members of the Canadian Armed Forces who are still working hard to make the world a better place for all, like those in Europe who are training Ukrainians in combat skills so that they can fight for their democracy and freedom against Russia's invasion. Or those stationed on ships in Asia, where the Royal Canadian Navy is working with our partner countries in the region to make sure everyone can sail the seas in peace. Members of the Canadian Armed Forces also do lots of important work right here in Canada. Like the service members in the Rocky Mountains as part of Operation Palachi, who help parks personnel keep the roads safe by conducting avalanche control so the snow doesn't damage our roads and railways, or threaten the lives of people as they travel through places such as Rogers Pass. Or the hundreds of service members who train in the Arctic to defend Canada's north, braving blizzards and frigid temperatures to practice ice diving, igloo building, and tundra patrols as part of Operation Nanook. We are thankful for our veterans and current service members for their dedication and sacrifice.
Well, I think it's really important to commemorate Remembrance Day because it's a way to honor those that have fought and died for us.
I just feel that all the members and military and everybody who's given us their lives and basically, sacrificed themselves for our country is a big thing to remember.
A lot of people don't realize how tough the soldiers had it in the wars, like in the trenches and all that. And I think it is only fair that we give them respect that they deserve.
I mean, everything we get to do is because they died on the battlefield, right? All of our comforts. So you got to take a minute to recognize that.
To remember the veterans that fought for us, for freedom, and to honor them.
We live in a world where it's important to remember our history and the mistakes and the horrible things that happened in the past, because otherwise there's always a danger of it happening again.
It's important to remember our past and the hard work and sacrifices that many people in the past have endured, the difficulties, the hardships, things that we really can't imagine.
Remembrance Day is important to commemorate all the people who are victims to war and also have fought for their countries, but also specifically in Canada, the Indigenous people who even under oppression fought for their country.
It's a time that we need to reflect, because everything we do would not be possible if it wasn't for the sacrifices of those who fought and sacrificed themselves during the wars.
Our Remembrance Day is kind of an emotional day. You know, you get to really think of the veterans and all the active soldiers and all their effects on us and how much they really protect us from everything and what they've done in the past.
Myself, I'm a teacher, so we do Remembrance Day at the school. And again, in the classroom, teachers, we have a discussion about what it means and what it represents, and just kind of trying to make sure that we educate the kids and make sure they appreciate what they should appreciate.
What we have right now, the freedom to go out and enjoy ourselves and enjoy life in general. And that's what it means to me. And of course, all the soldiers that gave up their lives so that we could have this.
There is another story to be told that sometimes isn't recognized. That is the sacrifice made by civilians, including journalists, who put themselves in harm's way to serve the cause of truth. Here with more is Murray Oliver.
Thanks, Stu. Wherever Canadian soldiers are serving, there is often another group of professionals moving alongside. These are the civilian helpers, doing their part to assist in protecting the values of our society. They are interpreters, drivers, construction workers, administrators, diplomats, and journalists. My name is Murray Oliver. For almost 10 years, I was a war correspondent in Africa and the Middle East. I also did 2 tours through Afghanistan and came through without a scratch. But in 2009, a member of the small family of Canadian war reporters met tragedy. Michelle Lang came to Afghanistan from the Calgary Herald newspaper, where she was an award-winning reporter. Michelle is often described as kind, radiant, brave, and totally professional. That's why she wanted to tell deeper stories from Afghanistan, to show Canadians how our soldiers were trying to make a real difference in the lives of Afghan civilians, supporting schools for women, providing jobs and training for men, and doing healthcare work among families in villages. So, Michelle jumped at the chance to visit Canada's military and civilian aid workers and development experts at their camp in Kandahar City. Now, this was in the Taliban heartland. The Canadian Development Headquarters was in a dangerous neighborhood. Michelle knew the risks, but she felt it was worth taking a chance. On December 30th, Michelle was traveling in an armored vehicle to a nearby village, planning to report on a Canadian development project there. Suddenly, an improvised explosive device hidden on the roadside exploded. Michelle and several soldiers protecting her were severely injured. When medics rushed to the scene, even the mortally wounded troopers refused help, telling the docs to try and save Michelle's life first. Ultimately, 4 of those soldiers would die: Sergeant George Mioch, Corporal Zachary McCormick, Sergeant Kirk Taylor, and Private Garrett Chidley. Also killed on that terrible day was Michelle Lang. The poem Memorial was written by James Fenton, a British war correspondent who went on to teach poetry at Oxford. On this Remembrance Day, we also remember the dedication and drive that motivates journalists, drivers, their interpreters to return to conflict zones in the search for truth. Here is Memorial by James Fenton.
We spoke, we chose to speak of war and strife, a task of fine ambition sought, and some might say, who shared our work, our life, that praise was dearly bought. Drivers, interpreters, these were our friends, these we loved, these we were trusted by. The shocked hand wipes the blood across the lens looks to the sky. Most died by mischance, some seen honor-bound, to take the lonely, peerless track, conceiving danger as a testing ground, to which they must go back, till the tongue fell silent and they crossed beyond the realm of time and fear. Death waved them through the checkpoint. They were lost. All have their story here.
One of the poignant ways in which we remember is through art, and one of the best-known pieces was the poem written by Dr. John McCrae, a lieutenant colonel serving with the Canadian Army on the Western Front during World War I. The day before he wrote his famous poem, one of McCrae's closest friends was killed in the fighting at the Second Battle of Ypres and buried in a makeshift grave with a simple wooden cross. Wild poppies were already beginning to bloom between the crosses, marking the many graves. Unable to help his friend or any of the others who had died, John McCrae gave them a voice through his poem. It was the second last poem he was to write. He died in France in 1918 at the age of 45. Here now is Kenzie Jordan reading In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
They were young as we are young. They served, giving freely of themselves. To them we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them.
Whether they're carrying out work like this here at home or deployed around the globe, members of the Canadian Armed Forces are helping make sure that everyone can live in a safer and more peaceful world. Those wearing the uniform today are following the path set out by the veterans who came before us. Throughout Canada's history, on Remembrance Day, we reflect on their hard work and their sacrifices. Thanks for joining us for this time of commemoration and remembrance. On behalf of the first and second year media student production team and the faculty and staff here at Assiniboine College, I'm Stu Smoley. Thank you for watching.